There's a huge update regarding the Oilers and a potential free agent signing. Yes, John Klingberg, all that and more today on Oilers Digest as we dive into the ins and the outs of a potential John Klingberg signing. Of course, multiple other teams are in the mix for Klingberg, but before we get into that, and also a game preview against the Minnesota Wild tonight as the Oilers are on the first half of a back-to-back with Minnesota tonight and Colorado tomorrow. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the whole situation here, if you are not part of the 19.6% that has subscribed to the channel, folks, what are you waiting for any and all Oiler news? Oiler Digest is the place to be. And also, if you also want to save some money, Koho is also the place to be, and they are today's sponsor. Are you tired of the same old banking experience? If so, it's time to check out Koho. Koho is Canada's leading fintech alternative to traditional banking, designed to help you spend smarter, save better, and even build your credit all in one super and simple, easy to use app. Koho is a Canadian company that offers 4% interest on your entire balance, and this is a non-promotional rate, which means it's one of the highest interest rates in Canada. Yes, with Koho, you can earn up to 2% cash back on everyday spending like groceries, eating out, in transportation. But it doesn't stop there. Koho makes building credit easier than ever before, and the average Koho user sees their credit score rise by 22 points in just 3 months. Plus, there are no hidden fees. You can earn up to 4% interest on your balance and even get a cash advance of up to $250 interest free. Koho makes managing your money fun and effortless. And the best part is, your funds in a Koho account are insured by the Canada Deposit Insurance Corporation, or CDIC, up to $100,000 Canadian. Are you ready to take control of your finances? Click the link in the description or the pinned comment and use code Oilers20. Again, the code is Oilers20 to get a $20 Canadian dollar reward when you sign up and add $20 to your account. Check them out. And again, thank you to Koho for sponsoring this video. Again, thank you to Koho for sponsoring today's video. But without further ado, clinging to the past. Yes, John Klingberg, a notorious defenseman around the NHL, Dallas, Toronto, Minnesota, you name it. He is clamoring to come back to the National Hockey League. From Darren Dreger yesterday, John Klingberg is closing in on resuming his NHL career. Toronto, Ottawa, and Edmonton among the teams with expressed interest. It's a decision expected in the next 2 weeks. Klingberg had hip resurfacing surgery in 2023 and has worked hard to get to this point. 5 to 7 teams in the mix. Of course, the 5 to 7, you have the 3 there with the Sens, the Leafs, and the Oilers. Dallas and Colorado also among the teams, trying to get into the John Klingberg sweepstakes. But from the Two Mutts Hockey Podcast, of course, if you followed the channel here during the summer, they were newsbreakers when it came to, such signings like Jeff Skinner or the Dylan Holloway and Phil Broberg offer sheets. But from the Two Mutts Hockey Podcast, the Oilers are indeed the frontrunners to sign UFA defenseman John Klingberg, from what we're hearing, and it could happen very soon. Klingberg would be paired up with Nurse, which is, some are saying a disaster waiting to happen, but that's just the opinion of others. And he would get the opportunity to play on the power play as well, something that I'm not too sure about there. The fact they could bring in Klingberg by not giving up any draft picks or trading any young players away has been a huge talking point in the organization. He's a free agent signing who can play in the top 4, and it's hard to find those types of players. Now, of course, like Klingberg, he'd be top 4 on the Oilers in 2017, but in 2025, I'm not exactly too sure about that. Don't know if it's, testing the waters with Klingberg until you get to the trade deadline and hopefully upgrade, with that position next to Nurse. But again, the point, it's hard to argue against, not trading anybody or giving up any draft picks for a player like Klingberg. But when it comes to the JFresh chart here, he's all, on the offensive side of the puck there, but when it comes to playing defense, if you don't put him next to, a stay-at-home defenseman on that left side, things could go wrong very quickly. Now, I could see, Klingberg as, say, a Troy Stetcher replacement as the extra defenseman, 7th defenseman, or even put him next to a guy like Brett Kulak on the third pairing. But top 4 with, Klingberg, again, not ideal in this scenario here. Of course, you could totally prove me wrong. John Klingberg, playing hurt the past couple years there with the Wild in the Leafs, with the hip. Because of course, when your hip's bothering you, you're not going to play to your full potential there. So if the resurfacing did its job, and Klingberg is serviceable again, or kind of serviceable, sure, it'll be a win for the Oilers. But when it comes to Klingberg in the defensive side of the puck, this has been going on for years. As you can see there on the far right there, the plus minus. Of course, Matt, why are you using plus minus when it's really kind of a redundant stat? Yeah, with the Dallas Stars when they were still a very good team. Of course, in 2020, the Stars in the shortened season did make it to the Stanley Cup final, so it's not like they were an awful team by any means there. But yeah, the plus minus for Klingberg, especially again next to a guy like Darnell Nurse. Sure, Nurse has played some of the best hockey of his career, but when you put sort of a time bomb next to him, say like a Cody Ceci or even a John Klingberg, things could get reset very quickly and reverted back to normal. So of course, it's a low risk, high reward here with Klingberg. Sure, if he comes back to vintage Klingberg in his play style, it'd be a win for the Oilers. But if not, bury his contract similar to the minors. So hopefully that's not Stan Bowman's big move on the blue line here for the Oilers. Hopefully he is still looking for someone, but. Wild ride, yes, tonight the Oilers are in St. Paul, Minnesota. Again, the first half of their back-to-back against Central Division opponents, the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche. But coming off the heels of a huge win against the Los Angeles Kings on Monday night there, a 1-0 win and a Stuart Skinner shutout. Finally getting credit with a shutout when he should have been credited with the one in Boston. But you know what? That's neither here or there. As you can see there, the Oilers moving away from the Los Angeles Kings, but the Kings do have 2 games in hand on the Oilers there. But again, got to look on the positive here. The Oilers 4 points ahead of the Los Angeles Kings and only 4 points behind the Vegas Golden Knights with a game in hand. So tonight is a huge one. These next 2 games, even 3 if you want to include the Vancouver game on Saturday night, huge for the Edmonton Oilers as they take on the Minnesota Wild, 7:30 Central, 6:30 Mountain. So again, another early start. Loving these early starts here for the Oilers. Staying up on Monday night was a bit of a challenge, and I'm sure many of you can say the same. But the Wild, again, always a tough game for the Edmonton Oilers. And yesterday, the Oilers also recalled forward Noah Philp from the Bakersfield Condors. The 26-year-old scored 9 goals and 8 assists in 20 games with Bakersfield this season. Of course, I was wanting him to start the season on that Oilers fourth line. Didn't happen. It was a rotation of, Derek Ryan and Corey Perry on that in that center spot there, and Adam Henrique there for a game. But Bob Stauffer says, "Do not be surprised if the Oilers test drive in quotes their Philp for a stretch of games if he performs well. Has played second line center, second unit on the power play, and seen significant penalty kill time with the Condors. And this morning at the Oilers morning skate, Philp did practice with the penalty kill unit, so always good to see. And he was also slotted in on the fourth line there, so you can see the Oilers may have found their permanent fourth line center with their lineup from the morning skate this morning: Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, and Zach Hyman, Vasily Podkolzin, Leon Draisaitl, and Victor Arvidsson. That top 6 pretty much never changes. Matisse Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. Again, many that's the line that divides many folks. Many don't like it, many do like it. I'm a fan of that line. And then lastly, the fourth line, again, bottom 6, really liking this: Corey Perry, Noah Philp, and Kasperi Kapanen, with the extra skaters being Jeff Skinner and Derek Ryan. So Jeff Skinner still in the doghouse of head coach Kris Knoblauch. And this is where, again, it starts to get a little more interesting. Mattias Ekholm was not on the ice, so you can see there the D pairings jumbled. Of course, this is all subject to change. Darnell Nurse and Troy Stecher, Brett Kulak and Evan Bouchard. Huge fan of that pairing. I mean, Brett Kulak hasn't had the most solid of games these past couple games. So putting him next to a guy like Bouchard, hopefully that revitalizes him. And then Josh Brown and Ty Emberson. I am so sorry for Ty Emberson. And Calvin Pickard gets the start tonight, as Stuart Skinner will get the start in Denver tomorrow night against the Colorado Avalanche. And Mattias Ekholm, again, a game time decision tonight versus the Minnesota Wild, which is always, huge news, as Mattias Ekholm doesn't really miss games for the Oilers ever since he came from the trade deadline in 2023. So he's I don't want to say makes or breaks the Oilers decor, but he's a heavy part of the Oiler blue line. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. Hopefully it's, if he is out, it's only an illness and nothing too serious like a major injury, because that is the last thing the Oilers need at a time like this. But looking ahead at the Minnesota Wild, in their last 10 games, only lost 3 times to the Ottawa Senators, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Vegas Golden Knights, but they are plagued with the injury bug. Matt Boldy, Marco Rossi, and Matt Zuccarello make up their first line. Marcus Johansson, Freddie Gaudreau, and Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Yakov Trenin, and then former Oiler Devin Shore, Murat Kuznetsov. I had to practice that one a few times before recording the video today. Those Russian names are always a treat to try to pronounce. And lastly here, Ben Jones, of course, the Minnesota Wild missing Kirill Kaprizov. That's always a huge loss for them. And even on the back end, they're missing guys like Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon. They have Jacob Middleton, John Merrill, Declan Chisholm, Zach Bogosian, and again, another former Oiler here on the Minnesota Wild, Travis Dermott, and newly acquired David Jiricek from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So you can see there, the Minnesota Wild are putting scraps together on that blue line. And starting in net for the Wild tonight is Philip Gustafsson with a goals against average of 2.50 and a save percentage of 917. He's been one of the top goalies this season, but the Oilers last month, they did shell him when they came to the XL Energy Center. And his last 3 games, again, really nothing to write home about. Pulled against the St. Louis Blues, and the Wild still managed to win that game with a duplicate 778 in 2 straight games for Gustafsson, and in 892 against the Vegas Golden Knights. So, the Knights in the Avalanche, top contenders for the Stanley Cup this year. So hopefully the Oilers can do the same tonight and shell them yet again as Marc-Andre Fleury backs him up. So when it comes to, the Oilers and, traveling, going back and forth on the road and back home, Connor McDavid says, everybody, relax. It's been a busy stretch here, a lot of traveling around, a quick little pit stop here and back out on the road, so a big couple of games, but I like how we're playing. We'll be fine. Folks, if Connor McDavid is telling you to relax, they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine, because, he is, again, doesn't give out praise too lightly here to when how good the Oilers are playing. There's always something to build on, but the Oilers are fine. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the potential John Klingberg signing. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Again, low risk, high reward. There's really not much the Oilers can lose out on that besides giving another legitimate option on that right side. And also, let me know what your thoughts about the game tonight in St. Paul, Minnesota. I know it's been a tough week for Minnesota sports fans, myself included. My Vikings eliminated from the NFL playoffs, but hopefully the Oilers can do the opposite of that and finally win it all this season. That is it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe here to the channel and also check out Coho in the description down below. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. Let's go Oilers. Take care. I'm Matt.